Meeting of the 23rd of June, adjourned to the 15th of July. We now have a quorum, and we now have a quorum, so we will begin the special meeting. Apologies to those people who are waiting for the 7 o'clock meeting. We have another item to attend to prior to the beginning of that meeting. Please stand as I read the acknowledgements. We acknowledge the land we meet on today is the traditional land of the Kaurna people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the original custodians of the Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still important to the Kaurna people today. And we welcome the other First Nations people to our meeting. On behalf of the City of Burnside, I gratefully acknowledge and pay respect to those who have sacrificed their lives for this country and its people. We also consider in our thoughts all those who today are being affected by war around the globe, and especially those in Ukraine and the Middle East. We seek guidance in our debate as we make decisions that will impact on the lives of all who reside, study, work in or visit the City of Burnside. Grant us wisdom as we serve our community. Please be seated. We now no longer have a quorum because Councillor Dawes is not going to sit.
Okay.
Sorry? Right, we will now be adjourning this meeting because we no longer have a quorum. We will now be adjourning this meeting until 6:30 on the 19th of August because this meeting must go ahead. We'll keep on adjourning it until we have sufficient numbers who are willing to get involved in the debate and make a decision one way or the other. 19th of August. Tuesday the 19th of August.
Your Worship, before you close this meeting, do we mark attendance? Yes. Have we got any apologies for this meeting?
We didn't get that far, but we do have only 3 official apologies from Councillor Wilkins, Councillor Davey and Councillor Hubel. Sorry? And the meeting is now ended at 7:02:32. Thank you. We can now start this meeting anyway. We'll have to do this all over again. Apologies. Good evening and welcome to tonight's City of Burnside Council meeting on July the 15th. Please stand if you are able and remain silent during the acknowledgements. Sorry, we're putting the visitors to through this, but we acknowledge the land we meet on today is the traditional land of the Kaurna people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the original custodians of the Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still important to the Kaurna people today, and we welcome other First Nations people to our meeting. On behalf of the City of Burnside, I gratefully acknowledge and pay respect to all those who have sacrificed their lives for this country and its people. We also consider in our thoughts all those who today are being affected by war around the globe, and especially those in Ukraine and the Middle East. We seek guidance in our debate as we make decisions that will impact on the lives of all who reside, study, work in or visit the City of Burnside. Grant us wisdom as we serve our community. Please be seated. I've only had one apology for this particular meeting tonight, and that is from Councillor Hubel. I'll remind you when we get to the items about declarations of interest. I seek a mover to move the minutes. Thank you, Councillor Cornish. Seconded by Councillor Henschke. All those in favour? Against? Motion is carried. Now I'll go through the reports. Now we've got no public question time. We have 2 deputations. And the first deputation is from Mr. Jonathan Billington. So if you'd like to come forward, please.
How about that? Is that better?
Yes.
Great.
So when you're ready, name and suburb.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and nice to see all the councillors. And I should, of course, say my name, which is Jonathan Billington, and I'm from Beaumont.
I'm Eva Billington. I'm from Beaumont as well.
Okay, our matter relates to agenda item 11.6 and concerns the reserve between Delbridge Court and our property at 6 Evelyn Court. As you probably know, the reserve is 10 centimetres wide and the length of our boundary, that's 50 metres, and prevents access to Delbridge Court from our place. The reserve was proposed along with Delbridge Court in a land division by McCaig Holdings in 2007 with the purpose of developing the gully. However, the lack of access to our land prevents its development, so is contrary to the purpose of the subdivision. We note that a similar reserve was not created at the boundary of Delbridge Court and 5 Evelyn Court, our next door neighbour, which has subsequently been subdivided and 2 allotments sold. Now, we can understand why the developer proposed the reserve. That was because we opposed the filling of the gully, along with around about 200 residents at its peak, whereas the 5 Evelyn Court neighbours did not oppose it. So I guess he was trying to punish us in a way. However, punishing us by putting in a reserve is no valid reason for establishing a reserve, in our opinion. So, just to summarise this, we see that there is no justification, A, for the establishment of the reserve, and no justification for treating us differently from those at 5 Evelyn Court. Okay, so thus we think it's reasonable for Council to remedy this situation quickly and with little cost. And our solution for doing this is granting a right of way over the reserve, which, because it can be done by delegation, can be done in a timely way, and has little cost both to us and also to the Council. So hence we consider this the optimum way to resolve this matter. Now, in their report, Council has a preferred option, option 1, which is revocation of community land status and the sale of land to us. However, it's costly in terms of Council staff resources, and in fact there are 4 hold points for meetings of the Council, so it also costs Councillor time, and it also needs to go to the Minister, so it costs his time and his people. And of course, it's also expensive for us. We've received some estimates from the Council as to what it would cost, and based on that and an estimate for what the sale of land would be, we estimate that cost to be around of the order of $25,000. It's also time consuming because we're advised that it'll take something like 8 to 12 months. Now, it's nice that the Council staff's report also considers our preferred option, which is the rights of way over the reserve. And it argues in 3 paragraphs, paragraphs 36, 37 and 38. The first one, 36, argues that the function of preventing vehicle access would be compromised and its intended use would no longer apply. And that's absolutely true, but that's the same for our option. That's the same for option 1 as well. Okay, thank you. 4 minutes. So it also acknowledges that rights of way are a possibility, and it's also has concerns about community perceptions and transparency, but it also states in paragraph 14 that there's no significant community value, nor is the reserve required for operational purposes, and has limited environmental value. So we believe the risk of a community backlash is negligible. Hence, we consider the arguments against granting a right-of-way over the reserve weak, and we therefore ask council members to support our option as the most cost-effective and timely solution, that is, granting a right-of-way over the reserve. Thank you.
Are there any Councillor Dawes?
Jonathan, thank you for sending the email and so forth like that, and also the follow-up text message. How long have you lived at the higher road? How long have you been there for?
In 6 Evelyn Court, we've lived there since 96, so 29 years.
And it was always your intention to develop the bottom 2 allotments on Delbridge?
No, not at all. So this has come as a consequence of Delbridge Court being put in there.
And when did Delbridge Court begin?
Sorry?
When did Delbridge Court, when was that put in?
Well, that's a good question. I'm trying to remember when it was, but
some time ago.
Some time ago, 2008, I guess, it was started to be developed.
Okay, I've asked 3 questions in a row. I think I better go back to the Mayor. Okay. What is the drop from that court you're on, Evelyn Court, down to Delbridge? Is it 100 metres? It's quite a severe drop. Is that correct?
Yes, it's a relatively sloping piece of land.
Right.
Now, one of the reasons that we were against the filling of the gully was that the initial proposal was for the gully to be filled right up to Duncan Road. So that was the initial proposal.
Oh, wow.
And when we looked at that, that was a height of 23 metres. So it would be of the order of 20 metres, perhaps, to answer your question. The other thing that I wanted to say, which I forget now, is, oh yes, you're talking about development. We think there is, when this has arisen, and we haven't thought about...
Not everyone may be able to hear, so if you
Sorry.
just don't necessarily look that way, make sure your microphone's at the...
My apologies. Okay. Yes, so with the development question, we wanted to have a quiet life in the hills, which is undulating, so we didn't want to fill because that was against our reason for being there. It was quiet, there was a lot of wooded land around at that time, and that was something we enjoyed, the environment. Now, when it's now been changed very significantly, there is the possibility of development. It perhaps doesn't necessarily have to be from Delbridge Court. It could, perhaps access could be allowed from Evelyn Court down to the lower regions. So we've had some thoughts about that, but they've only been thoughts.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to ask? Councillor Davey.
Thank you. Thank you for coming along tonight. I'm not quite clear, and I didn't hear your full response. So you want to develop the site to make 3 allotments. So this proposal would allow 3 allotments to be built on.
No. So the division would be 3 allotments, which would be the home allotment, plus 2 others, and those 2 would front Delbridge Court. And because services have been put into Delbridge Court, it makes sense to use those services.
Thank you. And you're going to do the development?
Very likely. We're not totally sold on it, but we would like the possibility.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else? All right, then I thank you very much for coming in tonight and giving us your deputation. Sorry, Councillor Jennings.
Thank you very much, Jonathan, for coming in. So if you are able to subdivide the block, there is adequate water, electricity and sewage all coming down you can connect to?
Yes, that is all provided in Delbridge Court.
Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Hallett?
Thank you for coming in and for your communications, earlier communications. In regard to, have you got an idea of what the blocks would sell for?
Well, if you look around the what has been sold, I've been in contact with an agent that was involved with number 26 Duncan Road, which is up near the end, the southern end. Yep. They were telling me that they thought that they would be able to sell that for about 1.25 or 1.35 million. Okay. If you look across the road, number 12 Delbridge Court is also for sale. Yep. That's maybe of the order of, I don't know, 1.5. Okay. If you look further around the suburb to Tennyson, number 78 Tennyson, that was subdivided into, well, it was 2 blocks, but it was purchased. They've been attempting to sell the land there. It's 1,100 square metres. Now they've had that on the market for a while, and talking to the agent there, they're now wanting between 1.5 and 1.65 for that. Yeah. So I hope that gives you some idea of the suburb type values. Mind you, the land not so long ago was selling, well, I think the neighbour on our southern side bought for around about 450,000, something like that.
Good buy.
So, which was a little while ago, and not so long ago blocks have sold for 840. So it's hard to know. We've had this amazing gain in land prices, as you know. So I think that's what's driving it.
Councillor Henschke?
Thank you. Thank you for all your information. I've just wanted to clarify, did I hear correctly that you've got a house?
Yes.
With one allotment, and did I hear that you needed access to Delbridge Court for that house as well, or was it just okay?
No,
right.
so 6
Just
Evelyn Court is off Evelyn Court.
Yep.
And we've had access there since we came.
Okay, so it's not for that your existing home in any way. Thank you very much. That's good.
All right. Thank you very much for coming in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll now call upon Mr. Peter Cameron to come forward.
So I'll leave it.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. So when you're ready.
Is that speaker on? Yep. Okay. All right, well, good evening. My name's Peter Cameron. I'm currently residing in Glenunga, soon to be a resident of Wattle Park. I am the owner of 524 Kensington Road, Wattle Park. Tonight, I want to speak about agenda item 11.5. That concerns the purchase of 79 square metres of land on the road verge of my property. This irregular shaped piece of land is effectively my driveway access from a sharp bend on Kensington Road. The original dwelling, which was built on that site, the original dwelling was built in 1980, but since demolished in June 2023. That dwelling encroached upon council land in that location for the past 40 plus years. The road verge on the point of that corner of Kensington Road is greater than 15 metres wide and comes to a sharp point within close proximity to my new residence and garage. Most of the road verge within the immediate locale is no more than 3 or 4 metres wide, and in some cases it would appear to be only 2 metres wide. And as best as I can tell, throughout the suburb of Wattle Park, the road verge would average perhaps 3 metres in width. So this whole development and building process of my new residence has taken almost 4 years and should be completed by the end of October 2025. That is, it would be completed apart from the desired front fence and gates that are subject to the piece of land under consideration tonight. You should all have before you my deputation that was made yesterday. It addresses various points made by Council in Agenda Item 11.5 regarding this piece of land, and in many cases refutes the claims made by Council. What I would particularly like to highlight, I'm not going to talk through that deputation, that's obviously a 6-page document. What I would like to highlight though are the following points. That there has been no excavation or alteration to the embankment within the road reserve or verge. No development has been undertaken on 524 Kensington Road, Wattle Park without planning approval. All development activity upon my land has been in accordance with the Native Vegetation Report, which was completed in 2022. The 79 square metres piece of land is a gravel access driveway and has always been such. It makes absolutely no sense for Council to retain that piece of land, as it can never be anything other than part of my driveway. Planting, as was suggested, of any trees on this piece of land is impossible, and not just because it is my driveway. This piece of land is in a bushfire zone and wholly within an asset protection zone, as it is within 20 metres of my residence. Therefore, Council cannot plant any trees on it. So if the Council sells this portion of land, it would both receive fair market values for said land and no longer must expend any money on maintaining that piece of land. Additionally, the safety, security and privacy of anybody living at 524 Kensington Road, Wattle Park is questionable without being able to construct a front fence and gates upon that piece of land. These are very real issues, and not just because a car has already crashed into the previous residence. Full details of that are set out in my deputation. Is it not reasonable for a landowner who pays significant rates to Council to be able to build a front fence and gates to ensure the safety, security and privacy of anybody living at that residence? These front gates and fence will actually enhance the visual amenity of the property and the entire location. The Regulatory Compliance Officer who attended the location back in September 2024, when I first applied to Council to start the process, thought that it made complete sense and couldn't see that there were any issues in this piece of land being bought from Council. That said, after the initial engagement with Council, the process has been anything but transparent, and I've had no further insight into the progress of the application, nor any engagement with the department responsible for handling it. So lastly, I would just like each councillor to put yourself in my shoes and consider what you would do when confronted with this very issue. How would you like or expect to be treated by Council if you owned this property? I would urge you all to vote for the road process and sale. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for coming in. My question is, how far from the actual boundary is your residence?
Well, because the road verge comes in at a really weird angle, at one point it's probably less than 2 metres. And then I guess in front of the garages and some points it would be probably 6 or 8 metres. So it's a very strange, you'd need to see the schematic that was part of the materials. But yes, it comes as close as probably 2 metres.
Councillor Davey.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in tonight. I'm just wondering, when you put in your application for development of the property, wasn't all this addressed at the time? And if not, why not?
No, it wasn't. I guess it wasn't. Well, the original residence that was there, I suppose when we went through the process, it wasn't clear where the boundary actually was. So, but that said, also part of the reason why the house is located where it was is to the topographical nature of the land there. It's not flat land, obviously, it falls away. So there was a 5-bedroom double brick, very solidly constructed residence that was there. So we sort of pretty much built in the footprint of that residence and have clearly extended the boundaries of our house because it's a much larger house than the original residence.
Councillor Dawes?
Peter, how are you? My first question is an obvious one. Did you do a survey of, because you've had that house for how long?
Oh, absolutely. I've spent lots of money on surveys and various reports that I've to be honest, I've jumped through every hoop I've had to, and there's been a lot of them.
So that survey didn't indicate to you?
No, it did. That survey indicated that the carport and the front fence on the residence that we bought was on council land.
Right, so it did indicate. My second question, you also own the block above, is that right, 526?
No, I don't.
So who owns that, the one that's just been
I have no idea. I've never met the man.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Davey?
Question's been answered. I was going to ask what Councillor Dawes did. Thanks.
No further questions, then thank you very much for coming in.
All right, thank you.
And we will now move through the reports. First report is 11.1, community grants. Councillor, do I have a mover? Councillor Zing.
I'm happy to move, Mayor.
Seconder, Councillor Henschke. All those in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Didn't get a chance to do anything. Shall I have declared? Okay. Next one is Heritage Reference Group Review. Seek a mover then. Councillor Jennings.
Happy to move.
Happy to move it. Seconded by Councillor Henschke. All those in favour? Sorry?
Don't we have to put people's names in the motion?
Oh, we do. We have to put names, so we'll have to have that one withdrawn. So Councillor Jennings, all right, I'll put you down as withdrawing it for discussion later, okay? Streetscape Review. I seek a mover. Councillor Cornish, seconded by Councillor Henschke. All those in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Diversity Policy Review. I seek a mover. Councillor Cornish, seconded Councillor Hallett. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Requested road process and sale. Obviously we need to... Councillor Turnbull, are you wishing to move it or withdraw it?
Withdraw it, thank you.
Withdraw, thank you. 11.6, Community Land Revocation, Delbridge Port Beaumont. Councillor Davey, you withdrawing? Closed Circuit Television and Recording. Councillor Davey, you're withdrawing. Mayor's Activity Report. Seek a mover. Councillor Jennings, seconded Councillor Hallett. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Chief Executive Officer's Report. Councillor Turnbull, are you withdrawing it?
Yes, please.
All right, so we shall go back to the Heritage Reference Group Review because, as has been pointed out to me, we do have to seek nominations for people to be on that panel. So, Councillor Jennings, you want to speak to it?
I'll speak. Thank you, Your Worship. I'll speak as well. I would like to...
Councillor Turnbull, could you just turn your mic
Oh,
on?
sorry.
Right.
I would like to nominate my fellow ward councillor, Councillor Wilkins, and Councillor Dawes. Thank you.
Do you both accept? I'll go one at a time. Councillor Wilkins, do you accept that nomination? Councillor Dawes, do you accept that nomination? All right, they've both got yeses. Is there anyone else who wishes to nominate or nominate someone else for the Heritage Reference Group? No? Then we do not need to go through an election process, and we can insert those two names, Councillor Dawes and Councillor Wilkins, into those spaces on the line.
And
And then I need a seconder before we can put the motion, or unless there's, of course, if there's any discussion. Councillor Davey, you're happy to do that? All right, we have a seconder, Councillor Davey. Does anyone wish to speak? Right, then I'll put the motion. Sorry? Councillor Jennings did. Yes. There we are, they're there now. And all those in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Now we move down to 11.5, page 137, Councillor Turnbull.
Well, while the resident refers to the land in question as their driveway, it's actually council-owned land, council-owned road reserve, and it provides access to the residents but doesn't give them a right to construct a fence or gates. The build seems not to have been straightforward. A previous request for a fence was refused by council. In March 2023, the site works were not in accordance with the approved landscape planning, necessitating a variation. The residents are asking for a significant parcel of land, 79 square metres. This land holds environmental value for tree and shrub planting, and particularly for the creation of a wildlife corridor. A wildlife corridor enables wildlife to travel from the beautiful natural habitat up the hill to the east, directly above the driveway, some of which is owned by SA Water. This is a haven for the wildlife in this area, and they move via corridor along Upper Kensington Road. This provisional acquisition would set a precedent that you can poorly design where and how your buildings are placed and then ask the council to bail you out by selling you the public land. I can't understand why the residents didn't ask for approval for a fence and gates in the planning stage and make allowance for it. And why did they build so close to the boundary? It's an area of road reserve, and it's just that. It's a safe walking space for the public, and plenty of the public use this road for their daily exercise, a safe stopping place for cyclists, and even a place for cars to pull over and look at the magnificent view. So I cannot support a request to sell this land, and will vote in accordance with the council recommendation that it not be sold. Thank you.
Councillor Davey, you seconding?
Thank you.
Do you wish to speak now?
Yes, thank you. I endorse all of the comments that Councillor Turnbull has made. I think the staff have done have written a very thorough report, done a lot of work, obviously, on this matter. There is native vegetation, and I think that they have been involved. They've been advised of it. The Native Vegetation Act provisions have come in. So I too cannot understand why the boundary issue was not resolved at the planning stage, and when the house was built and all of those deliberations were made. So I can't support sale of this land, and I don't believe our community would support it when it went out to community consultation. So I hope you'll support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Dawes.
Yes, I have a question for administration here. We heard Mr Cameron say he did undertake a survey of the land, and it did indicate things were out of alignment. Can I just ask administration, at that time, how did you respond to Mr Cameron? Did you say to him, well, I'm sorry, you can't build the house. I know that's not your area, Mr Brennan, but just tell us a little bit more about the conversations that went on at that stage.
Through the Mayor, so you're correct, Councillor Dawes, that would have been handled through the planning process, and surveys would have been developed as part of that process. I think that the planning application and ultimately the build progressed to a certain point, and what I assume has happened is that the residents at some point have decided that they'd like to construct a fence, realising that that survey of the land and the fact that there is a road reserve cut in from creating what is an irregular block creates some challenges. I understand that they've then reached out to council staff seeking to put an authorisation agreement in place to construct a fence over council land for that encroachment, which was subsequently rejected.
Councillor Howard.
Thank you. The deputy tonight made a comment that council wouldn't be able to plant trees on the reserve. Is that fact or not? Because we've commented that it does have environmental value, and when I went to look at it, it did look like there would be able to be biodiversity, at least type planting. So I'd just like a comment, please, about that.
Through the Mayor, thank you for the question. The area of land that's been requested to be purchased, looking at it from an aerial view, half of it is currently utilised as driveway to the residents' property. There is a section, approximately half of the land that's been requested to be purchased, that is currently turf. And from our preliminary assessment, our view is that there is an opportunity for increased environmental plantings in that space, whether that be understory or biodiversity. The residents have made a point that obviously there are bushfire considerations, so that would have to be factored into any consideration that we made in terms of planting on that land.
Thank you.
Councillor Hedgkey.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question through you to the administration, please. Thank you for all the history and so forth. My question is, in the context of all building development applications, we often see variations to building applications. So in that context, putting a variation or a request for a fence in this context is like, well, it's just like every other variation or something like that, if I'm not using the right terminology, correct me. So then the question is, in that context, is it technically feasible to put a fence in there for the problem of security and safety, which is what I heard tonight in the deputation in the paperwork, that there is a need by the residents for security? So technically, did Planning Department advise that, you know, there's an alternative that you can put a fence and so forth in there and a gate, or is it just too narrow? I just don't have those measurements. Do they really need 80 square metres or 8 by 10 metre space to do the security story? Thank you.
Through the Mayor, so the plans that would have been assessed through the planning application were developed by the residents to achieve a build that would suit their purposes. At a point in time, the concept of constructing a front fence has entered their minds. I'm not sure if that was during the planning phase or if it was a subsequent consideration. But what they're planning to do is to construct that fence on council land. If a front fence was necessary for the build and it had to be on council land, the residents had the opportunity to raise this with council at a sooner point than what they have done. Alternatively, they could have pursued a different build model that might have pushed the building back and allow them to construct a fence within their own land.
If there are no further questions, I'll go back to Councillor Turnbull.
I'll just say that once the land is sold for fence and gates, it's lost to the community forever. Land is scarce in Burnside. We need to keep what we have. The bushfire part, that's a fair assumption that there could be a bushfire risk, but you can plant with resistant plants and trees. They are resistant to fire. So I would like to see that this land stays for our future generations. Let's keep it in Burnside Council care and attention. Please, let's keep it. Thank you.
All those in favour? Those against? Motion is carried. Next one is page 151, 11.6, Community Land Revocation, Delbridge Court, Beaumont.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. I have an alternate recommendation. I haven't sent it through, unfortunately, I haven't had a chance, but it's much smaller, simpler than this one. And if you could delete 1 and just make what is 2 now 1, and make that, amend that to does not proceed to revoke so delete approves the commitment of the process and instead makes it does not proceed to revoke the community land classification over the entirety of the land in Certificate of Title Volume 6146 Folio 905 being community land at Delbridge Court, Beaumont. For a lot of the reasons that we've already heard in the previous motion, while there are some special characteristics, and we thank the applicants and owners and applicants for coming along tonight. Council's open space policy does not support the sale of public open space, however small or in whatever form, to support subdivision. It's a decision that's been made by Council to protect our open space, to maintain it for its environmental values and for the community values. I don't believe with this going down through this process that it would have the support of our community in that whole process. So I think while I respect the issues that you have raised, I think that it's much better for the community and our environment and to maintain our council policies that we don't progress to revoke the community land classification. Could you delete 2 and 3? I just want it all deleted. Sorry if I wasn't clear.
We need to get the motion right before I call upon
Absolutely.
anyone to second it as well. Thank you.
Well, it's so confusing. So I'm asking that Council does not proceed to revoke the community land classification over the entirety of the Certificate of Title, Volume 6146, so that just that whole first sentence, and then just delete everything after that. And delete that last sentence, please. Thank you.
Is that correct now?
Thank you. Yes, that's
I'll
my
seek a
intention. Thank you.
seconder. If there's no seconder, the motion lapses. Councillor Turnbull, you're seconding?
I'll second it, but I will not.
If there's no one wishing to speak, I think it might need to be you, Councillor Turnbull, or you missed your chance. No one else is offering to speak. So are you going to second and speak or not? Okay, then I'll put the motion. Sorry, you get this opportunity to respond. Apologies.
Thank you. So can I sum up? Yes. Thank you. I think, as has been identified, there is a risk that Council may face criticism from the local community for facilitating the creation of 2 additional allotments, particularly in circumstances where other property owners may have encountered constraints under the Planning and Design Code. This perception may be heightened if the outcome is reviewed as inconsistent with established planning objectives. So, while the process is usually that this goes to public consultation, I think because this will be a very expensive process and involves a lot of administrative work, I would be happy if we decide at this stage not to proceed to revoke the community land classification. I don't see that the owners would be seriously disadvantaged in this manner. I thank the staff too for all the work that they have done on this report and the investigations that they've made, but I think we're better off if we don't revoke this community land classification to sell it. I hope you'll support this. Thank you.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? A division's been called, so if you voted in favour, please stand. It's Councillor Wilkins, Dawes and Turnbull, Councillor Harvey, Councillor Davey. Those against, remain standing please. Councillor Jones, Councillor Jennings, Councillor Henschke, Councillor Cornish, Hallett and Zing. And the motion is lost. I now seek someone to move the original motion. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor.
Just wait a moment till we get the original one back up again, Councillor Jones. Assuming you're not making any amendments.
No.
Okay, now you can go.
I think this is a very difficult one, which is probably why it went 6-5. I do have a problem that voting for this means I'm voting for subdivision, which is something I absolutely hate to do. That said, it's 5 square metres of land. Look, those of you, many of you are probably not familiar with the history of Delbridge Court. But suffice to say, when the history of Delbridge Court is written, libel lawyers will be crawling all over that history, checking that the people commented on are dead, because it's opaque, to say the best. So, look, I really want to go out to community consultation because I'd like to see what the people on Delbridge Court think about this idea, because I don't know if you've been there, but it's pretty grim. You know, you'd have to say it's the old Kent Road of Beaumont. And the one thing about this land that belongs to the Billingtons, that is effectively their back garden, is that it does produce some greenery on Delbridge Court. So I would be keen to know whether the residents, just even though it's somebody else's garden, whether they value that, having a bit of greenery on their road, or whether they're happy just to have another 2 more 4-storey concrete bunker houses built on that road. So that is why I am going to support the officer's recommendation, but I recognise this is about as borderline as I've ever come across.
Councillor Hallett, you happy to second?
Yes.
You wish to speak now?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I do think it is a difficult decision to make, and I have had a look at it today, from top and bottom. You can see that, well, from my point of view, it doesn't seem to hold much scenic value at this present time. I didn't see any trees left on it. There's some pine trees over by the house down the corner. And it is, to me, it's only 10 centimetres wide and 5 square metres, is that correct? And in this particular instance, while it seems like it's against our policy, I think it's a sensible one for council to sell it to the owners wanting to subdivide it. And given that the land looks so steep, you can just see that what's going to happen is they're just going to move in and excavate it, and there will be some more large buildings go in there. But on the other hand, they're very expensive buildings, they're very modern, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And so I think this is I think what the administration have come up with is the right decision for council to sell the small slither of land and allow the land to be subdivided, because at this present stage, it's just really weeds growing on there. So that's why I'd support it, and I'd urge you to support the officer's recommendations as well.
Councillor Jennings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Jonathan, for being available via telephone and email so we could learn a little bit more. So what I like to do is when these things pop up, like Kensington Road, I hopped on my push bike today and I rode up there and had a look around, and it seems like this is far too easy. We're going to fit another possibly two houses, large houses. At the moment, we've got a bit of I wouldn't say a crisis, but we're getting close with a housing shortage, and you know there will be people that want to build their lovely dream house. Maybe 4 stories seems a little bit extravagant, but it'll be good for. There'll be 2 new houses. The block sizes, I think 700 square metres each, is a very decent size subdivision. If it was maybe 3, I'd be a bit iffy. But yeah, so I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Councillor Dawes.
Yes, I just want to explain my position here. I supported Councillor Davies' motion because of the principle alone. Now, since we lost that, then we moved to the next stage. And I just wish that Delbridge Court was never built, to be honest. I wish it was prime land, not for residents, but for nature. But so what may, this is what happens on occasions. I am going to support the motion. I do understand where Councillor Jones comes from. It is his ward and he's caught between a rock and a hard place on this one. But the reason I'm going to support it is because of the community consultation that's involved, and see what they come back with us on that one. And policies are there to guide us, and there is a policy of council that the administration has followed closely here. But yeah, I will support it, but reluctantly so.
Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got 2 questions, please. First one, it's only 5 square metres. How much would it be worth at the current land values for Beaumont, approximately?
Through the Mayor, there'd be a range of considerations that a valuer would have to take to determine what its true value would be. However, in the city of Burnside, we're seeing land value on a per square metre rate from $1,600 up to $3,500, depending on where it is. So you would have reasonable value, but there'll be other considerations for a valuer to consider. Development opportunities are key consideration, so I expect that would have some factor in considering whether it would just be a straight direct comparison approach or whether there be some sort of commercial imperative attached to that.
Right, thank you. Second question, could the price be negotiated rather than actual land price? Because this is going to make a mozza for the residents, getting 2 large houses on that block now.
Through the Mayor, under the Council's policy, when it considers the disposal of an asset, land asset, it will generally need 2 valuations to make an informed decision. That would be through engaging licensed independent valuers. We provide those reports to Council for it to consider. Ultimately, what price it would be willing to accept for any sale is a matter for Council. The valuers don't set that price. They provide valuation advice, and Council can choose to
So you're saying we could negotiate?
Absolutely.
Right, thank you.
Councillor Wilk.
Thank you, Mayor. Like Councillor Dawes, I will consider supporting this motion, But I note point 3 in the motion where we're requesting a further report to be provided to council outlining the outcomes of the community consultation. How long will that take, do you think? What is your timeline for that?
Through the Mayor, once we have a decision of council, if it wishes to proceed with consultation, we'll commence working on the materials quite quickly.
Yeah.
We would expect to have that out in the public realm within 4 to 6 weeks. There needs to be a statutory period that it's open for responses to be received. That's a minimum of 21 days, but quite often we'll allow some extra time on top of that to make sure there's a full transparent approach. We need an opportunity to consider those, the feedback on that and to develop a report. So I'd say 3 to 4 months.
Okay, so that report will come back to council? Yeah. Fantastic,
Absolutely.
Thank you, that's what
Yes.
I want to know.
Councillor Cornish.
I'm happy to support this motion, noting, of course, the residents actually would prefer a right-of-way and not to purchase it, but I think administratively it's cleaner to actually have the property in their hands. Like, we are talking about, like, the width of a brick paver is wider than 10 centimetres. A brick paver is 11 centimetres. So we're talking, like, not a lot of, like, land at all in terms of, you know, the footpath there. So I just think it is cleaner. Everyone knows where the boundary is. You know, this council won't have to come back in 40 years' time and go, why the hell did that council make that silly, stupid call and have 3 different classifications of land with a 10 centimetre strip in between them? It just makes no sense. I think this does make sense in the first instance. Understand the residents' request for the right-of-way, but I think this is a bit cleaner for everyone involved. It is a longer process, and I apologise, but I just think in the long term it's cleaner. So I will be supporting the motion.
Councillor Henge.
Thank you, Mayor. A question for the administration, please. I just wanted to know, is this a really rare situation where council happens to have bits of road reserve that are blocking potential development sites? Sorry, not road reserve, yeah, community land. So therefore, are we making decisions piecemeal every time one of these come up, or is it a bigger problem that we need to consider at a policy level next time?
Through the Mayor, we see the development or the creation of these reserves generally when there's large developments that occur, and it's not just localised to Burnside, they're used throughout South Australia and probably throughout Australia. It's a useful tool when you need to restrict vehicle access from a property in a certain direction, so there's frontage onto one side. It limits congestion and traffic sight lines. Topography is often a factor of why you might create one of these. In terms of dealing with these, it's best done on a case-by-case basis. This reserve was created in the early 2000s and it was done for a specific reason. It's been an appropriate time for us to have a look to see if it's actually required anymore and does it suit council's operational requirements or public safety grounds. In this situation, we don't believe that it is necessary at this point in time, and that's why we're recommending to proceed. In this situation, if we became aware of other situations and we were asked to have a look at it, it would be an appropriate time to have a look at that one as well.
Right, I shall go back to Councillor Jones. Then I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Motion's carried. Thank you. Now we move to 11.7, page 177, Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. I have an alternate motion which has been sent through. Thanks. Thank you. I've just moved this slight amendment to clarify about our digital records and the access that's allowed or what access they have. The policy's excellent, and thank you for updating it. As we all know, CCTV use has increased necessarily in these times to reduce or deter security risks covering a whole range of people, for our volunteers, our customers, council members, staff and council assets. We also record council meetings, which are used for record-keeping purposes and are valued by our community for viewing either on the night. As you know, we have lots of people watching, and often at a later date when people want to refer back to them. For transparency, and as these recordings are increasingly used for evidentiary purposes, we need to know that they're readily available. I understand that the YouTube versions on our website are retained for 6 months, and we also have provisions which are covered. The staff have helped revise the motion. We need to make provision for confidential meetings where there does need to be editing for that purpose. I was concerned that they might be being edited as they're being put onto the website, but I'm assured that the website contains all of the discussions that we have in open council, and it's only the confidential ones that are edited out. I assume that they are, and I could stand correct on this, that they are available by FOI application if people or the community want to access the confidential meetings. So that's the only amendment I've made. Otherwise, it's a good policy. The other issue that I thought was interesting was that we're increasingly using dash cam footage, which is of course virtually normal in our cars these days, and I believe there's use of body cameras for enforcement purposes at times. So I think this covers it all, and well done to the staff for developing and redrafting it, so thank you. I hope you'll support this small amendment.
I seek a seconder. Councillor Harvey, do you wish to speak?
I'll reserve my right, thank you.
Councillor Dawes.
A question for administration. In accordance with our policy, we keep recordings for 6 months, as Councillor Davey has said. In real life, how long do we keep them for? I know it's a policy for 6 months, but do we keep them for a lot longer than that?
Through the Mayor, so the minimum is for a period of up to 6 months. Sometimes it may be a little bit more, but the Code of Practice says that up to a minimum of 6 months.
Councillor Turnbull.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I've just got one question. Are the council meetings edited? Bits cut out, etc.?
Through the Mayor, typically not. There has been some IT issues that have required it. We've had to re-upload things like that, for example. And there has been times where people have left microphones on during the breaks, so we have cut out the parts where there's been discussion that has nothing to do with the council meeting, because it is streaming that, so that part has been edited.
Councillor Hallett.
I've got a number of questions, so perhaps I could break them up too. Okay. What are the digital records that we're talking about? Are we just talking about the YouTube recording? Because they're available for years going back, so I'm not sure what digital records are.
Through the Mayor, they're both digital records, and in this circumstance, in terms of the recordings, there are recordings that are captured, and those, by way of the Code of Practice, as Councillor Davey has rightly pointed out, are kept for up to 6 months. The YouTube videos as well, they're kept as digital records, and the minimum for that was 31 days, but we leave them on there longer. We leave them in perpetuity as a service to the public.
Want a subsequent question?
Yes, the second question is, sorry, thank you. Second question is...
you probably missed it now because you turned your mic off. I'll have to go to Councillor Jen to come back to you. Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 6 months seems like a very short time to keep your digital recordings of meetings. I won't support this, and I would like everything to be kept in the cloud indefinitely. Yes, it uses a lot of power. Yes, it is.
Emergency?
It is heating up the earth because it needs a lot of power to keep things going. But it's better than having it all on bits of paper sitting in a warehouse somewhere, which takes up a lot of space and now reminds me of Indiana Jones looking for something. I'll stop now. Thank you.
I'm just going to get Mr. Spearman to respond to that.
Through the Mayor, prior to live streaming, council meetings recordings were kept only for the purpose of the minute taking, so as to assist the minute taker to ensure accurate minutes were taken, and in fact they were deleted or destroyed following approval of the minutes. That has been modified by the Code of Practice to increase that to 6 months. So, and in order to be able to make the change that you're suggesting, it actually requires a policy change to the Code of Practice as opposed to this motion.
And I think you told me that it's actually a lot shorter in most other organisations. Is that correct?
Through the Mayor, typically the standard was to delete them after confirmation of minutes.
Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Worship. Just a question, because these are additions to 2.5 of the policy, which currently has it set down as the State Records Act, our records management policy, and any relevant general disposal schedule. Would those disposal schedules have a longer disposal period time than our Code of Practice?
Through the Mayor, the disposal schedule is not, it's a shorter time, but the general disposal schedule is minimum. So the Code of Practice is more generous in terms of retention.
Councillor Cornish, who's still pondering a response to that? Yes. Okay. Councillor David.
Thank you. I have a question, if I may. Just following on from the ones that have been raised, and I think Councillor Hallett hit the nail on the head, that the State Records Act requires longer retention of records, both paper and digital. Is there any difference for that? Because, or is it the designation of them as official records that is the driver of how long these are retained? Thanks.
Through the Mayor, the General Disposal Schedule 40 has a wide array of classifications, so it depends on the type of record. For example, council minutes it must be kept for, I think, permanently. You might have CCTV recordings, so the recordings that are actually here for security purposes, under that disposal schedule, it's 31 days. If there is a recording that is taken for an investigative purpose, or required for court purposes or something like that, say it was for CCTV, then that extends that, and that becomes part of an extended, I don't know the time frame off the top of my head, but possibly 99 years or something like that, I'm not sure. But yes, so it ranges, it depends on the type of record or how that record is used.
Councillor Henschke.
I have a question for the administration. 2.5, Councillor Cornish confirmed, was expanding on it, that it's about official records. So can the administration clarify, please, what this motion A and B adds to 2.5 or are those, or is A and B in this motion already covered elsewhere in the policy adequately? Are these new things? I just need clarification, thank you.
So through the Mayor, the additions of A is currently in line with our code of practice and what we're doing at this point in time. And through the Mayor, B is very much the same as well.
Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you. Just one more question. When's the next update for the CCTV equipment?
Through the Mayor, there may be some confusion between live streaming equipment and CCTV equipment. So CCTV is throughout the entire Civic Centre. That's a fairly new system. I may have to refer to Ash of when that was updated and installed. It would be in the last 2-ish years, as opposed to the live streaming, which was when we did the redevelopment of the council chamber back in 2017, 2016. Yeah.
2017.
Councillor Hallett.
My questions relate to that I perceive the policy to be silent on the use of fake cameras to deter antisocial behaviour. And I'm assuming, because we do have some hotspots for antisocial behaviour, and residents have asked that we install cameras in those locations. How does this policy address that particular issue? And residents have also asked that if we didn't actually have cameras, if we could at least look like we were recording. And so I wanted to know what costs are involved for having a camera installed in a location like the Sky Lookout, and what would be the maintenance, what is the cost of installation and maintenance, and what are the costs of monitoring and reporting? That's the question. I've got another one.
Through the Mayor, with such a solution, those types of requests come up every now and then, and currently the CCTV system we have is really for our council facilities. If we would like to progress to rolling out CCTV to problem hotspot areas, the policy, although relatively silent on it, could allow for it, but the challenge will be you don't want to create an individual solution for one spot, because you don't know, like that might be one type of solution with one type of manufacturer, with one type of monitoring system, which we'd have to outsource and cost. So if it was a position of council to look to roll out a comprehensive solution to monitor multiple hotspots, that would have to be considered as part of the annual budget process, because we would have to assess that and cost that and determine what the hotspots are.
Through the Mayor, can I just add also liaising with SAPOL is really important as well in the consideration of where SAPOL would consider the hotspots would be to assist with them. And at this point in time, I don't think I think the last briefing we had with Superintendent Denny, he didn't raise any specific issues with that as yet, but it definitely would be liaising with SAPOL and also through a budget process, Councillor Hallett.
So just for clarification, what the administration was saying is that the fact that the policy is silent on surveillance cameras in public places doesn't prohibit it sometime in the future if we were to make a budget submission in that regard. That's right. Okay. Thank you.
Through the Mayor, that's correct. There is a provision there for either mobile or fixed cameras, and as mentioned in the body of the report, there is some uses being used outside, such as wildlife monitoring.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Davey.
I just have one further question. This raises a whole lot as they're all coming up. just to clarify with my amendment, and as the staff have said, this already is the coverage of and retention of our records for council meetings is already covered and specified in our code of practice. So we don't really need to amend that to affect that, or is that something that we should do down the track? Sorry, I just want to make it most as explicit as possible because people keep asking the questions. That's the main reason for it.
Through the Mayor, what you have there then requires through the CCTV policy to align with the code of practice and ensure that that retention, which is currently 6 months, is in there. The way that you've drafted your motion is excellent in terms of it allows for, if council decides to change the code of practice, then the CCTV policy is already compliant with that code of practice because you haven't picked a fixed date in your motion.
Councillor Cornyn?
Thank you, Your Worship. Can I just confirm for people out there that there is no facial recognition? In this, it's a bit of a hot topic at the moment. Yeah, so if I could have an answer to that one.
Through the Mayor, that is not enabled with our CCTV solution. And the policy also, it was a consideration to include it to future-proof, but that is not being included in this version of the policy.
Thank you very much. I will speak in favour of this motion. I think, as Councillor Davey has confirmed, linking it to the Code of Practice is a pretty smart move. So if we choose to change the Code of Practice to say we want to retain the YouTube recordings of these meetings for 100 years, we can do so, or in perpetuity on there. I'm glad to see that, you know, the council has left the meetings since 2018 up there for us to easily search and review. I think these policy upgrades are really well done, so thank you.
I think I shall now go back to Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for all your comment and interest. The intent of my amendment is just to provide, at 2.5, is just to provide the clarification to everyone, particularly our council members and the community, of the status of council meeting recordings and link it to the Code of Practice procedures at meetings. We also have, in terms of the privacy issues, we also have our privacy policy, which I'm recommending that we endorse. A lot of work's gone into that, and that gives protections and a whole lot of detail about people's rights and best practice approaches to managing personal information, which is very important because it's getting more and more complex these days. So I think these are great policies. I hope you'll support the amendment, and thank you.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Motion's carried. Now we move to Councillor Turnbull, page 221, Chief Executive Officer's Report 11.9.
Thank you. I have just a small query. Page 231, the Burnside Retirement Services Incorporation. Now, we did vote in January that that report would be every 6 months. It's a month over now. That's a moot point. But could we please have, can we lock in the next 6-monthly report for February, please? So it's 6 months on.
Through the Mayor, just a comment on that one. The motion that was moved actually called for a review of the Charter and to then have that 6-month requirement placed in the Charter. That Charter is still under review, so it isn't part of the Charter yet, so it's not actually a requirement just yet. That being said, we can invite BRSI to come and report to Council, so we can do that and just request that they attend.
Just further to that, through the Mayor, Councillor Turnbull, in the report you will note that we are taking a more proactive approach to trying to get our chairs to come and present to the chamber. So there's a commitment from the Burnside Memorial Hospital, There's now a commitment from the chair of East Waste, who hopefully will be getting here to the August meeting. So we're actively trying to get chairs in front of the council.
Councillor Turnbull, did you wish to speak to the motion? Because you haven't just had a question, that's all, but you have moved the motion. Right, so you've moved the motion and you don't wish to speak to the motion? Okay, right, well then, I'm going to assume then that you have spoken, and I will now move to, I need a seconder.
I'm happy to second it.
Councillor Davey, do you wish to second? And so therefore, do you want to speak, do you want to speak now, or will you hold off for one more person? Can I allow, I'm happy for you to second it. If you just withhold your right to speak or ask another question, because I've got Councillor Hallett there already, I'll let her ask her question or make a comment and then come back to you. All right, Councillor Hallett.
Thank you. I really appreciate the report, and particularly the way it's set out under the goals, and it really, to me, shows very clearly that we are progressing on the goals, so thank you for that. But my question is, can ratepayers, and it's in regard to page 223 and the advent of the electricity, I forget what it's called now. Solar power, yeah. I just want to ask, can ratepayers access a rental option via the Tinder scheme? I wasn't sure if you could or you couldn't.
Yeah, through the Mayor, that's correct, and that's what makes this community renewable scheme unique as opposed to some of the other councils. They haven't been able to crack the rental property market, so we have got that. So
I mean, with which one? You could rent the.
Sorry.
You could rent the equipment, so you could rent the battery, you could rent that, and will our scheme provide that?
I can confirm that's the case, yeah. It's not a rental, it's a payback system. You don't own the property completely until you pay it over fully, but that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Now, Councillor Davey.
Thank you. Well, my question was part question, part congratulations to the CEO and the staff for all the work they've done to get the solar and battery deals for Burnside residents. It's been a very long process, and it's great to see. I had some reservations about it at the start, but we've got a whole lot more information now, and I know a lot of negotiations have been undertaken, and it's really fabulous to see that we've actually got them appointed to deliver a community renewables program, so for both households and for our businesses. And it's also by a South Australian company, so it's a win-win for everybody, and I look forward to participating in it. So thank you. I don't have any other questions. The other issue that I do have is about the subsidiaries and how often they're reporting to us and how much information we're getting from them, and it would be nice to have a bit better quality updates from most of them. I think EHA is the one that gives us most complete information, if I have to pick them out. And the only other question I did have is where is the Burnside Hospital development matter up to in terms of getting to SCAP and getting progressing that, and with what community involvement? Thank you.
Through the Mayor, you'll see there is the attachment in the CEO report that has the response from Minister Champion about our initial letter to him. We have provided a comment back to, we've been asked what's the term used? It's just our advice, and specifically with the headings. So we've provided that back, and we have been really clear about the importance of a community voice in the process. And in the letter from the Minister, he does say that they will be engaging with the representatives, but they won't be opening up any other additional public process. They are relying on the process that Council had undertaken.
Can I just add to that? and just to add to the CEO's comment, a reminder that the response we made to SCAP with respect to our comments was provided to Council through information document last week.
Councillor Henschke.
Thank you. I've got two questions, one about Burnside and one about the hospital and one about the water, ERA water. On the Burnside Hospital question, thank you. The administration had a very detailed report on a planning report, and my question was, it wasn't quite clear in the response from the minister whether the minister's department was going to take on board the issue of inadequate parking, which was very clearly spelt out in the planning report from the administration, that it was clearly inadequate and there was going to be quite a lot of spillover onto the streets which are already congested in that part of the Rose Park Turret Gardens ward. So I just want to clarify, is it clear that the planning department are taking on board your office's points about inadequate parking?
Through the Mayor, I've got to be very clear about what's happening in this process to this stage now. So the Planning Department for Council are no longer responsible for the assessment of this development. The Minister has called that in. So the State Planning Commission panel will assess this. Council's response was based on our technical and feedback on the code and what we believe is appropriate, and so part of that was a parking response, as you would have seen. What we have said is we've reminded SCAP that we received a number of representations which many talked about parking. Our assessment also took on the issue with parking and traffic, and we hope that all matters raised during that process will be given due consideration. Ultimately, it will be up to SCAP to make their assessment based on the information in front of them.
Thank you for that. It just was disappointing that the Minister's letter did not specifically address that. There was a reference to some other issue, but not that. And in my mind, that was very important for the community. So, sorry, that's a comment, but my question, can I move on to the ERA water? Question on page 228, last paragraph. Council administration will begin a strategic review of water management and demand in July, etc., etc. Who is that being done in-house with operational budgets that you have? It sounds like quite a big exercise. Thank you.
Through the Mayor, we've actually got someone external to come in. It is done within our own operating budget. The purpose of that is really to get down, have a very good look at what water use we have at the moment and what water use we are projected to use in the future, and what type of water use. We have groundwater, we have gap water, we have ERA water, and we have mains water. So, and it really is to drill down into the ERA water and what that really means for the City of Burnside, which looks at our risks and our opportunities. And I think it's timely, and it will include, I think, Councillor Wilkins, you've emailed wanting to have a workshop or at least an information session to actually bring everyone up to date and look back where we've come from, but mainly the focus is to look forward and to see what are our water security impacts, but also what are the financial risks we have as well.
Thank you.
Councillor Hallett.
My question relates to page 224 and the Kensington-Wama Kensington Gardens Reserve Club Ruins redevelopment. And my question is, originally we were thinking that the building would get underway in January this year, and I'm aware that we've held the development up, what is the impact of the delays on costs for the building?
Through the Mayor, I'm pleased to report that the expression of interest for the construction component for the build is now underway. and it was launched on Friday, and so far we've reported yesterday we've had 30 companies download that information, so that's progressing nicely. The next stage will be to finalise and secure development approval, and then once we shortlisted through the EOI, we're looking to get underway within the next few months. Long story short, any delay obviously has a potential for an impact on costs and budgets with everything escalating. We won't know that fully until we go to the market, but the clubs and the council have now nominated relevant parties to sit on the steering committee for as part of the project, and we will ensure that we value manage appropriately in full consultation if required.
Councillor Wilkin.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Through you to the CEO, as I've said before, I've had Sindo panels since 2012 on my home, and I've always advocated for a South Australian company to supply the program that we now have. So can I suggest that perhaps we could have a visit to Tindo Solar? I did visit before I purchased, way back when, and Uniting Communities in that stage at Community Services and their energy services, we also visited to see what they actually do. And I think it would be very useful for councillors to visit as well on site to see a South Australian manufacturing company. Thank you.
Through the Mayor, I'm sure we'll be able to sort of organise something. We'll see if we can find a contact in the company.
Councillor Corn.
Some questions regarding the Burnside Hospital, and apologies for them. They might take you a little bit out of the realm. And I thank you for providing the letter in the agenda. Certainly for members of the community to provide, to give them access to it. My question is, there were two sort of processes going. Us giving approval for the bridge over the road, which was contingent on good feedback from consultation from the community, which I don't know where that sort of process stands now that the state government's gone and taken over control of this entire process. So I just wonder if we need to, as a council, put our thought processes back into that process, or does SCAP overrule us no matter what, even when building a bridge over our road? Does that make sense?
Through the Mayor, no, it's still two very separate processes. However, the bridge component of the development application will still be considered through SCAP. The 221 application for access on council land, as it were, will still be the responsibility of council. I'd be happy, outside of council, to reissue, perhaps through an information document, where we're currently up to with respect to the 221 process. My recollection of the council resolution at the time is not that it's to the satisfaction of the community consultation. It's my understanding, and I'll clarify this when we send it separately, so I don't have it in front of me, it was to undertake appropriate community consultation, which I believe they did at the time. They had available, etc. So we'll provide all of that information to council separately. If council would have a mind to consider that further, I can assist with that in conversations. At this stage, though, council, and I've received legal advice on this, council has done everything appropriately at this stage to provide their necessary approvals in place. The future approvals may be required if there's any road closures required as part of any development of a road bridge, etc.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Jones.
Yeah, I've got some questions about the hospital as well. Can you just clarify, did the state government seize the initiative off their own bat, or did the hospital ask them to take over the process?
Through the Mayor, my understanding is that the hospital requested it.
So my supplementary question is, up until now, they've been keeping us quite well informed. Did they give us advance warning that they were going to try to opt out of the council approval process? And if so, did they give their reasons for this?
Through the Mayor, they were upfront with us that they were considering going through the Minister for Planning. Yes, and the reasons I think they thought. I mean, I'd be speculating is that would be a quicker process for them.
Councillor Wilkins?
Yes, another thing came to mind through to the CEO. Re Glenside Hospital, we have a public meeting on Saturday that everybody needs to know about. It's another public meeting at Glenside Hospital site. So I would urge all ratepayer Glenside Hospital site, which is now a housing development.
I think that was just a bit confusing, so Councillor.
Yes. So yes, if all residents and all staff and all of the councillors could attend, that would be excellent. Thank you.
Councillor Cornish?
Further to Councillor Jones's questions, is Council in the position to be able to confirm that the actual property was sold to the capital investment firm that will be developing the land back in December of last year? I'm getting that from the residents and ratepayers of that area, that the hospital no longer owns the land. It's the investment firm that will actually be leasing the property long term to the hospital.
Through the Mayor, I might need to take that on notice, Councillor Cornish, and come back.
If that is the case, then I think we can also withdraw any rebates of rates on that block of land in this coming financial year, if they're no longer a not-for-profit. Thank you.
Councillor Turnbull, do you wish to speak to sum up?
Simply, I'd just like to congratulate our CEO on a well-written, concise reporting she's given us. It's been excellent. It gives us as council members an opportunity to ask questions. Otherwise, we wouldn't have that opportunity. So thank you. Well done.
Right, I shall put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. That's the last of the reports. You've got all the answers to the questions on notice. There's no motions on notice. Urgent business subject to leave the meeting. I think we resolved that, Councillor Cornish. Just to inform you, I did write to James Stevens and thank him on behalf of the City of Burnside for all of the support that he has given in the seat of Sturt, and was very complimentary to him and commiserating at the same time in terms of his loss, but also really established the fact that we appreciated all the support that we'd been given him by him over his 4 years on council, on federal government. Now we shall move to the confidential items, and I'll seek someone to move into confidence. Councillor Cornish, Councillor Jennings, all right, thank you. The seconder, please. Councillor Hallett. All right, then we'll just wait for a little bit of movement. And we have to vote for it first. All those in favour, of course. And I know there'll be a different